The Lockheed State Route 71 Blackbird was built around a brutal Cold War calculation. If a reconnaissance aircraft had to enter dangerous airspace, it needed to survive long enough to bring the intelligence home. Instead of relying on armor or weapons, the Blackbird relied on altitude, speed, and precision. It could fly above 85,000 feet and cruise at more than Mach 3, meaning it moved through the sky at over 3 times the speed of sound. From that height, the aircraft operated near the edge of space, far above normal air traffic and beyond the practical reach of most interceptors. Its purpose was not to fight, but to observe. It was designed to look deep into hostile regions, collect photographs and electronic signals, and leave before defenders could react effectively. The Blackbird emerged from Lockheed's Skunk Works, the secretive engineering division famous for solving problems that seemed impossible on normal timelines. Clarence Kelly Johnson led many of the concepts behind the aircraft, building on the earlier A-12 reconnaissance plane. The State Route 71 shared the same design family, but it was larger and heavier because it needed to carry more fuel and support a 2-person crew. The pilot flew the aircraft from the front cockpit, while the reconnaissance systems officer sat behind and managed sensors, cameras, navigation, and mission equipment. That second seat mattered because the Blackbird was not just a fast airplane with a camera bolted onto it. It was a complete intelligence platform, designed for complex missions at extreme speed. Flying at Mach 3 created problems most aircraft never face. At that speed, the air itself becomes a source of danger. Friction heats the aircraft's skin to extreme temperatures, so ordinary materials would weaken or fail. The State Route 71 used large amounts of titanium because it could handle heat while remaining strong and relatively light. Even the aircraft's black finish had a practical purpose, helping radiate heat away during high-speed flight. The Blackbird also expanded as it warmed up in the air. On the ground, its fuel tanks could leak because the aircraft was built with gaps that would tighten only after the structure heated and expanded in flight. It looked strange, but it reflected a deeper truth. The State Route 71 was designed for its real environment, and that environment was not the runway. It was the high-speed upper atmosphere. The SR-71's shape was just as important as its materials. Its long fuselage, sharp edges, and blended chins were not only futuristic styling. They helped reduce drag, improve stability, and lower the aircraft's radar cross-section compared with more conventional designs. The Blackbird was not invisible to radar in the way modern stealth aircraft try to be, but it was one of the early aircraft shaped with radar visibility in mind. Its chins also generated lift and helped the aircraft remain controllable at very high speeds. At Mach 3, tiny aerodynamic mistakes can create huge consequences. Air pressure, heat, and shock waves all interact with the aircraft at once. The SR-71's shape was a carefully balanced answer to those forces, allowing it to fly fast, high, and stable for long-range missions. The engines and inlet system made the Blackbird's speed possible. At lower speeds, the aircraft used powerful jet engines, but as it accelerated, the airflow through the inlets changed the way the propulsion system worked. The engine installation became more efficient at extreme speed, allowing the aircraft to cruise at Mach 3 rather than simply touch that speed for a moment. This was the key difference between the State Route 71 and many other fast aircraft. It did not just sprint, it sustained speed over enormous distances. The inlet cones, airflow controls, and fuel management had to work precisely, because the engine system was operating close to the limits of 1960s technology. When everything came together, the Blackbird became a long-range reconnaissance arrow, able to cross huge areas before defenders had time to organize a response. The most famous defensive move of the State Route 71 was simple: accelerate. If a surface-to-air missile launch was detected, the standard response was not to dive into a dramatic evasive maneuver. The crew pushed the aircraft faster and let physics do the work. A missile chasing the Blackbird had to climb tens of thousands of feet while trying to intercept a target already moving at extraordinary speed. The missile had limited fuel, limited time, and a narrow window to make the interception. By the time it reached the right altitude, the Blackbird could be far away. This is why the aircraft gained such a powerful reputation. A total of 32 SR-71s were built, and 12 were lost in accidents, but none were lost to enemy action. Its best defense was not secrecy alone. It was performance. The Blackbird carried more than cameras. Its reconnaissance equipment included high-resolution photography systems, side-looking airborne radar, and signals intelligence sensors. Each system served a different purpose. Cameras could capture detailed images of military sites, airfields, ports, and infrastructure from extreme altitude. Side-looking radar allowed the aircraft to scan areas off to the side of its flight path, which meant it could gather useful information without always flying directly over a target. Signals intelligence equipment could detect electronic emissions, helping analysts understand radar networks, communications, and defensive systems. This made the State Route 71 valuable not just for seeing what was on the ground, but for mapping how an adversary's military systems behaved. A single mission could produce imagery, radar data, and electronic intelligence for analysts to study long after the aircraft landed. Operating the State Route 71 was almost as complex as building it. The aircraft required extensive preparation, specialized maintenance, careful mission planning, and support from aerial refueling tankers. On average, a Blackbird could fly only about once per week because the work before and after each mission was so demanding. The crews wore pressure suits similar to those used in spaceflight because the aircraft flew so high that a cabin pressure failure could be fatal within seconds. The fuel, engines, sensors, and structure all required attention from highly trained teams. This was not an aircraft that could be casually launched at short notice like a conventional fighter. It was closer to a national-level intelligence instrument. Every mission represented a coordinated effort involving pilots, systems officers, ground crews, planners, weather specialists, and intelligence analysts. The State Route 71 entered United States Air Force service in 1966 and quickly became part of Cold War intelligence operations. From Kadena Air Base in Okinawa, it flew missions connected to North Vietnam and Laos during the Vietnam War, and later monitored North Korea. From RAF Mildenhall in the United Kingdom, Blackbirds flew along the Soviet Union's Baltic and Barents Sea coastlines, gathering intelligence without directly overflying the Warsaw Pact. The aircraft also supported missions related to Cuba, Nicaragua, Libya, Israel, and South Africa. Unlike some earlier reconnaissance aircraft operated by the CIA, the State Route 71 flew with United States Air Force markings. That made it overt in ownership even when its mission details remained highly sensitive. It was a visible symbol of American technical reach during a period defined by secrecy, surveillance, and strategic competition. The Blackbird's speed records show why it still feels unreal. In 1974, and State Route 71 flew from London to New York in 1 hour, 54 minutes, and 56 seconds. That is faster than many people spend watching a movie, yet it covered the Atlantic route between two of the world's great cities. In 1976, the aircraft set records as the fastest air-breathing manned aircraft, a title associated with its ability to use atmospheric oxygen rather than rocket propulsion. What makes these records especially impressive is that the State Route 71 was not a fragile experimental vehicle built only for a single record attempt. It was an operational reconnaissance aircraft. Its speed was part of its job. The records were not separate from its mission, they were proof of the performance that made the mission possible. The State Route 71 was retired not because it had become unimpressive, but because strategy, budgets, and technology changed. The United States Air Force retired it in 1989, though several aircraft were later reactivated before a second retirement in 1998. NASA became the final operator, using the Blackbird as a research platform until 1999. By then, satellites and unmanned aerial vehicles were taking over many intelligence roles. Satellites could observe large parts of the Earth without risking pilots, while drones could loiter for long periods over specific areas. But those systems did not fully replace what made the Blackbird unique. The State Route 71 combined speed, altitude, flexibility, and human decision-making in a single aircraft. It could be sent on a specific route, gather specific intelligence, and return quickly with data that commanders needed. Decades after retirement, the State Route 71 Blackbird remains legendary because it represents a rare kind of engineering confidence. It took the problem of hostile reconnaissance and answered with a machine so fast and so high-flying that interception became nearly impossible. It pushed materials science, aerodynamics, propulsion, navigation, and human endurance to the edge of what was achievable. As of 2026, Lockheed Martin's proposed State Route 72 remains a concept, not a direct operational replacement. That makes the Blackbird's legacy even stronger. Its numbers still stand, but the real story is not just speed. The State Route 71 mattered because it turned speed into strategy. It made information gathering possible in places where ordinary aircraft would have been too vulnerable. It was not built to win dogfights. It was built to arrive, observe, and vanish. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.